Ladies and gentlemen, welcoming you all to International Affairs. This is being broadcasted from Dhaka's Gulshan studio here at SATV. Of course, I am your host, Shamsul Alam Panto. As we begin a fresh new week, today is, of course, April 26th, and there are various interesting updates from around the globe. Before we get into the discussion, I want to introduce all the panel. Here in the studio, I have Mr. John Dalton, who is, of course, our international consultant, as well is an avid commentator on various global issues, has appeared on this show numerous times. Before I welcome you onto the program, sir,
glad to be here. Thank you.
A very good afternoon. Alongside, we will have our geopolitical correspondent, Norman Floyd Barnes, joining us from Washington, District of Columbia. I want to begin the discussion with Norman. We know that U.S. President Donald Trump has called off the envoy that was supposed to go to Islamabad. Of course, Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff were supposed to go. However, that was turned down by U.S. President. And also earlier on, we've also seen a suspected shooting incident inside the White House Correspondents' Dinner program. Of course, no injuries were reported. There were several shots fired. I want to begin with Norman. This is a very interesting time for geopolitics. People are not following the timeline, and of course, because of so, peace negotiations, if not ceasefire negotiations, are now coming to a state of stalemate, and we do not know what is the future of this kind of war. I want to begin with Norman. What are the updates you have on your desk?
Greetings. Today is Sunday, Washington, D.C., and today we start a new day. We had a critical incident last night at the White House, the annual White House.
Welcome to International Affairs, and my name is Shamsul Alam Panto.
I don't see an easy.
2,300 dignitaries, heads of state, heads of the cabinet, and government leaders and news correspondents like myself. I have attended this event before, both working the event with the government, so I'm very familiar with this event. I'm very familiar with the security measures there. I'm very familiar with the venue. Approximately at 8:35 last night, a lone gunman entered the venue, the checkpoint, what we call it, where the magnetometers was at. He actually video showed that he ran through the area, and he was challenged by the Secret Service agency. They fired at him, and there's reports said that he returned fire, but that still hasn't been verified. But basically, they fired at him, and one Secret Service agent was shot. He's okay because he had a protective vest on him, but the suspect was apprehended. He was identified as a 31-year-old teacher from California. He stayed in the hotel. He was in the hotel, and on his possession, he had a shotgun, a handgun, and numerous knives. So this incident occurred, if you're familiar, the ballroom is below this area. There's an entrance level, there's a sub area, and this was the area that's just above the ballroom itself. He breached that area. He was apprehended, and there were shots fired. Because of the shots fired, the ballroom itself, people started to took cover under the tables and everything else, and the president and the cabinet members was escorted out. Both the president and the vice president was unharmed, and in addition to other cabinet members there, including the FBI director, the Speaker of the House. We had the base of the top five members of people of the government there. The top five members of the government was all in one location, which is very unique and special to have it happen. So right now the investigation is going on. Exactly who is this guy? He is alive. He's in the hospital. He was not shot. And the agent itself, he's also doing well after being shot through the vest. So right now we're looking at exactly how this happened. This is a very secure area. As you know, this was the area where Reagan was shot
Right.
uh, decades ago. Like I said, we've done a lot of training there, a lot of events there, and this is very unique for this to happen, that he was able to be able to breach security at this level. So right now, the DC area is buzzing about this incident and basically trying to figure out who is this guy, what was his motive, and why the night. So they're trying to connect the dots. And that is what is happening in DC right now, that we had this event. And the president, in the meantime, canceled additional talks for the envoys, Steve Witkoff and Garrett Kushner, in Pakistan. Right now, he's stating that it's up to the people, the Islamic government, to basically make the next move. He's not going to do anything in terms of ceasefire and the conversation of that.
Right. Very importantly delivered by Norman Floyd Barnes regarding the updates of the White House Correspondents' Dinner, as also regarding the stalemate, as I would call it, between the U.S. and the Israeli attack on Iran. But coming back into the studio with John Dalton, the suspect in this shooting incident, he is identified as Mr. Cole Thomas Allen, 31-year-old from California. According to various sources, we were also discussing that he's quite educated into that matter. But this kind of heinous attack, the timing as well. We last saw Donald Trump at this very White House Correspondents' Dinner almost 10 years ago, when he was taking comments from the then President Barack Obama.
Great show.
A great show, and that was the tipping point, as I remember how Donald Trump came in to as being the POTUS as President of the United States. I want to get a view from you. This is during the time between somewhat of a ceasefire and then having this kind of event being marred by some kind of violence that is going on. World leaders are now condemning this kind of cowardly attack. What do you say?
Yeah, no, nobody would endorse or encourage what happened. We don't know the motive yet. We don't know whether this individual was mentally sound, or whether he had a personal agenda, or whether he had a political agenda. We don't know anything about it. So it's best to withhold too much comment about that until we sort of sort it out. He's been fully interrogated and gets the FBI debriefing. Maybe we'll get the story. Who knows? But I think it's also a symptom. Well, two things. One is that, if all of you have heard the expression "wag the dog," it's an expression about like an event which happens which tries to detract from the main event. So a minor event, the tail, wags the dog, which is the major event. Is there a major event now? The Epstein files, the war in Iran. Was this an event that was, I can't say staged, but certainly was somebody had planned it as a way to intentionally disrupt the flow of information so that people would not concentrate on the war in Iran and say that, as Trump has been told many, many times, you're losing this war. You're losing the war on a public relations basis. And as long as Iran is able to hold out, you're losing credibility in Europe, you're losing credibility in the United States. Is this a wag the dog moment? We don't know. Okay, we'll find out. Maybe we won't. There's a lot of secrets in the United States these days. I'm glad to hear that Norman has so much familiarity with the president's correspondence dinner. However, I think that insight is going to be very, very useful as we proceed with this. That hotel, I was working across the street from that hotel the day that Reagan was shot, and a very good high school friend of mine was in the detail of the Secret Service that day, and he was himself wounded. So the familiarity was when they said it was at the Hilton, it was like, whoa, wait a minute, this is like deja vu. I mean, this is where Reagan was shot. I'm still the president. It was kind of some goofy stuff went on at the time. But as the week proceeds and you're talking to Norman, I'm sure he can fill in some of the details about that as well.
Right.
The stalemate itself, I think that You know, I went back and I looked at just for a minute about the JC POA, huh? Action plan,
Yeah.
and and I noticed the level of expertise that the United States team had assembled to bring about the result that happened, which was a wonderful settlement of an outstanding issue. And there was the guy who was the MIT professor, PhD, and Wendy Sherman. I mean, a first-class team of experts on the technical side going in to negotiate this agreement that took several years. I mean, John Kerry was actively involved, not some jamoke. John Kerry was involved. As I said, MIT, Wendy Sherman, some guy named Nephew, who was a specialist in payments. And we're sending these two jokers to Islamabad to negotiate? The foreign minister of Iran was also on the Iranian team back then in 2015.
Yeah.
Totally familiar with the issues, deeply steeped in the whole issue of uranium and transfer of uranium. And we're sending two real estate guys. And, you know, I hope this stalemate goes on because I can't imagine these two guys being able to negotiate something as technically detailed as the uranium and the reparations and all the other issues that went in at that time. Don't forget, they agreed to hold the quality of their uranium at 3.65% for 15 years. We're now at 60%.
Which is nearing weapons grade uranium.
90 is weapons grade uranium, but they've already gone from 3.65 agreed to 60%. All because Donald Trump did not like the fact that Barack Obama was getting credit for this joint action plan.
Right.
All because of that. And now we're back into people are dying, the world is in an economic distress, all because of his fragile ego. And so, you know, I'm hoping somehow or other that I think the Iranians are playing this very, very smart. And I commend them for being so good, you know, good negotiators. But I hope that somehow somebody other than these two jamokes gets sent over there to talk to the Iranians about this deal, and we get a really professional team. America has some fantastic expertise. Why don't we send them instead of a son-in-law and a partner in some phony little economic company now, this Liberty Financial?
Of course.
Well, that's what I'm thinking.
Important.
Hi, Norman.
It plays into world affairs, of course. Importance of international law is also considered here. I want to ask Norman as well. I believe he has something to add on to this very issue. Of course, right now the U.S. president has said that we have all the cards. They have no military left. Practically, they have no leaders left. These are the comments by U.S. President Donald Trump. Norman, how would you value his statements? Like as he's saying that there are no leaders in Iran.
Well, you have to look at the big picture, the objective. The reason why the Trump administration sent the two people over there was their job was basically to send the message. We have a message. We want the message being delivered. We are not concerned about your commentary, your negotiation, but these are the terms, and they do not really have the authority or power to do anything or make any decision. They're on the phone with the president every 20 minutes while they're over there. They are not making their decision. They are not talking to the people. And the Iranians' intellect is detecting that these guys are just messengers. They do not have the power to negotiate anything. We have the upper hand right now, and they're playing that. They're playing that to the end. That hey, we give them a little bit. We know they can't say yes or no. They can't make the decision. We know what we can do, and we're not going to show our hand to these two puppets. Basically, that's what they are. They're basically puppets for the Trump administration. So the point is, and they recognize that this is basically the United States is offering what we call terms of surrender. These are the terms we're going to talk about, and you have to agree to them. And the Iranians are saying, no, you first thing, you don't have the authority. you don't have the knowledge, and you don't have the ability to make change. We do, and the president. And until that happens, nothing is going to happen. We're going to be playing this game back and forth. We on, we off, we talking this and that. And in the meantime, there'll be stuff happening in the field that is going to disrail that, just like this event last night. I'm saying it's associated with it, but here we go again. Every time we get close to a closure, there's a incident or event globally, locally, in DC or whatever that detracts away from the attention of it. So we have to look at the pattern. Things are happening. Yes, things do happen, but the timing of everything, you have to look at that and what effect that has on the world events. So here we go, dealing with the player, dealing with the event, looking for time. I feel that we're basically trying to drag this out, looking for time so we can pre-position our resources so we can make a surgical attack and get what we need, or put them at a disadvantage where they have to concede. So that's what we're right now. We're looking at basically a stalemate, and the Iranians are basically playing this to the end. They
Right.
have, like I say, every action has a counteraction and a reaction to everything that's happening. So what we're going to see and what we're seeing and witnessing is basically every time we're playing chess. You make a move, I make two moves. Make a counter move, I make another counter move. And basically, we're playing the board and see which one cracks first.
Of course, importantly delivered by Norman Floyd Barnes, the world is now a chessboard with the leaders being the chess pieces. With that being said, it's time to take a commercial break. Ladies and gentlemen, do stay tuned. We have more updates for you.
Solution to this, because every slight deviation from the plan
opening an open war conflict with them.
Testing nuclear missiles.
Russia's announcement of these supposedly successful testing.
Special and exclusive footage that is being played on SATV screen.
Really coming to terms with Hamas.
Damage estimated between this entire issue.
President Trump is expected to hold bilateral talks.
Preserving biodiversity and tackling climate change.
We cannot protect the planet before we negotiate peace.
Where is it going? Is it understanding the needs of its people before the needs of this global world?
For China to come to agreement,
They will face better projects.
With presidency of China and President Lee of South Korea.
Trump's White House that is in favor of these things.
simply not enough action being taken to address the problem of fossil fuels.
What their plan initially is towards the Caribbean, a place that has been met with two types of disasters.
Bangladeshi students at the same level of opportunity internationally and domestically.
International Affairs. Watch every Sunday to Thursday at 2 p.m. only on SATV and SATV Digital. Welcoming all our viewers back on International Affairs. Today I'm joined with John Dalton here in the studio, as well as Norman Floyd Barnes through Zoom. We were talking about the suspected shooting at the White House dinner, as well as the stalemate in Pakistan. But I must change the tune to other nations, other parts of the globe. There are important updates that I want to share. One of them being the European Union's latest sanctioning on Russia. The 20th sanctions package was just approved on the 23rd of April, and includes packages for energy sector, military industrial complex, finance and banking, and many more markets combined. Of course, we have a major Russian attack on Ukraine. Almost 600 plus drones were hurled, 7 were killed and 30 were injured. That is the update regarding the Ukraine-Russia war. Much of the eastern Ukraine is at the helm of Russia. And today is April 26th. We will talk about Ukraine to a certain degree. I want to ask Norman, this time around, we see Iran is a contested neighborhood, Strait of Hormuz, contested neighborhood. We also see a neighborhood inside Europe, of course, Ukraine and Russia war, long-running war. Still, the hostilities are continuing. What do you see? The world attention is being swayed from one direction to the other. This war is now taking the long term, and it may cause it to spread out to other European nations. We've seen how various drone would incur into other nations surrounding Ukraine. What is your observation, Norman? How do you see this unfolding?
Well, as we talked about the situation in Washington, you have to look at the world events. For the most part, most of this stuff is staged and planned. We get smoke and mirrors. We have incidents over here. We have incidents over there. We have incidents in Europe, the Middle East, Africa, whatever like that. These are planned incidents to basically detract away from the attention. As you notice, one time the Ukraine and Russian war was the hottest thing on the news. Now it's on page 7.
Correct.
If it's all at all. It's on page 7. And Russia is continuing to do exactly what they plan to do. They are very strategic and they having surgical attacks. They are not talking a lot, but they are basically having drone attacks and they are decimating the infrastructure of Ukraine. Ukraine at the same time is basically talking to Europe, not as much to the United States, on basically how they can survive through their technology and whatever to carry this on. So this event is what we call the endless war. Basically, it's going to go on and on and on until one part is cracked. And the synopsis is basically at some point in time, Ukraine is just going to say, hey, we had enough. We let you have the land. Let us go back and let's move on to the next level. So basically, right now it's just a situation that Russia is keeping the pressure on, tearing up the infrastructure, creating a situation where quietly we are destroying and taking over. Where basically they have occupied land, and that land they have seized, they have contained. They have not given back 1 inch of land. They are seized and they're holding the area, and they're actually already there. These areas are basically controlled by Russia, and Ukraine is basically standing by and saying, hey, we're going to fight you, we're going to resist you, but we know we can't defeat you. So that is what's going on with Ukraine. We get into their situation with Gaza. You notice we left Gaza, now we're going to southern Lebanon and other parts of the area with the Israeli military. Same pattern, slow destruction, tear up your infrastructure, take away your energy, displace people, create a situation where the land and the property, no one can live there. So you may not be defeated, but you can't survive. You can't eat. The basic principles of life, food, water, shelter, is no longer available for you. So you have no choice but to surrender or just move to another area. And as you move away, we will basically reoccupy the area. So this is a slow drip process of we'll keep the pressure on you until you cry uncle and give up.
Right.
And we'll just assume that, hey, we're already here, so let's build on this thing. And basically, it's done. You just need to sign the word. So it's not going to go back. I don't see Ukraine is going to be able to go back to where it was. Moving forward, they may move forward in a certain way, but the conditions be different. They're going to have to live with Mother Russia right there or in your pocket. So I don't see any indication where they're going to be, say, Russia say, hey, we give up, we give you the land, we go back. No, they're already there, they're embedded. They are embedded there, and they have the ability to rebuild the infrastructure. Ukraine do not. And that's the same situation with Palestine, the West Bank, and the whole area as we go on. They are tearing up the infrastructure, so you can't not go back. You have to move forward, and the resources needed to move forward is possessed by them.
Right. Very important updates delivered by Norman Floyd Barnes. He compared the current situation of Gaza as well as Ukraine as we see this territorial dispute coming out of hand. Coming back into the studio with John Dalton, you were hearing Norman today. Ukraine is getting some of the spotlight because of historical events. I will mention that later. However, the Russian attack seems to be continuing. And with the current situation in the Middle East, Russian crude oil or the oil that they export out has become very valuable to many economies here in Asia. We also have India, who is known to be someone who is dependent on the Russian oil. And not only so, in the West Bank and Gaza, we are seeing municipal elections in the backdrop of surging violence by Israeli settlers. How would you comment on this very fact? Gaza sees its first or so vote held since the start of Israel's genocidal war.
Let's leave that issue aside for 1 second. Let me go back to some of the comments that were made about Ukraine and so forth. You know, don't forget, the United States had very effective sanctions on the shipment of Russian oil.
Right.
Until they botched the war in Iran.
And then the 30 days.
And now they have to release the sanctions so that Russia is using the money that the United States supposedly had stopped to finance the war that they're doing in Ukraine. So America has shot itself in the foot as far as the battle of Ukraine. They have botched the entire global overview, And Russia's laughing up its sleeve. You know, they're getting billions a day in revenue because the United States was unable to did not want to get in the middle of a global crisis because, you know, they're very money oriented in the United States. This global crisis would have cost credibility, would have caused too many problems for them. So they released the sanctions, and now the money flows to India. The money flows to the other countries as well, and Russia is being enriched thereby.
Right.
I also think that I differ a little bit with Norman. I don't believe that Ukraine will ever give up the three eastern provinces that are now ethnically Russian. This has always been the difficulty, is that these people who are living there are close because they were in the Soviet Union. They're closer to Russia ethnically. They speak the Russian language, not Ukraine. They live out their values with Russian traditions and customs, not with Ukraine.
Right.
And so we're at a stalemate right now. Russia has been able to advance 3% of the land in the last 2.5 years. And they've lost 2.5 million men in the process, by some accounts. And so there is this is a war of attrition. One side is Kiev and the other Ukraines are being struck every day by these Russian drone attacks. You notice that there's very little reporting about the war on the Eastern Front, what's happening on the ground.
Right.
Ukraine seems to be winning that advantage, but not necessarily picking up new territory. It's a bit of a stalemate, and people are dying on account of it. I don't think Zelensky and his government could survive any negotiation that involves ceding land, the sovereign territory, to Russia. So it's going to have to be some sort of a protected zone, a buffer zone, in which Ukraine accepts Russian ethnic participation and officials in that area, but on the map it's still Ukraine. And the same thing with Crimea. It's all going to be Ukraine, but it'll be administered by people who are leaning more and more towards Russia. And maybe Russians will provide them with foreign assistance, maybe there'll be closer ties, but I can never imagine Ukraine willingly ceding those three provinces on the eastern border to Russia as a final solution for the war. Time will tell. So I have that little bit difference in terms of, like, I think the guts of the Ukrainian will outweigh the adventurism of the Russian Empire coming in, Mother Russia, as Norman has mentioned.
Right.
So now the Gaza thing.
The endless war.
It's it's kind of like everybody's kind of still fighting in here. I think that the story today in one of the New York Times was that Vladimir Putin's popularity is at its lowest ebb inside Russia. Okay? Now that's still over 50%. But it's
That's
still the
still
lowest
very
it has
protected.
been, you know? He usually wins his election by 92.5%. So people are starting to get sick of it. It's affecting the economy. Ukraine is making surgical strikes to the power plants inside Russia as well, the ones that they can reach. So it is a bit of an endless war. I don't think there's going to be an easy ceasefire arrangement worked out. But if for 1 second Vladimir Putin, Zelensky gives up any territory in the ceasefire agreements, I mean, it'll be the stain on his name and on the Ukraine government forever.
Of course. As I make of the statement.
But we can talk about the Gaza thing some other time.
That is there, but I want to draw a comparison. Similarly, Iran can't have a weapon, and Ukraine won't let go of its territory contested with Russia. And that is the forefront, or that is the main issue regarding the confrontation.
Well, do you remember, we all can not remember, Ukraine voluntarily gave up its nuclear weapons in exchange for a
Yes.
security agreement with the United States. And the United States
Yes.
has not conformed to that agreement at all. So if you look at Iran, and they'll say, well, wait a minute, hold it. Look at Ukraine. They gave up their nuclear weapons,
Yep.
and you're hammering them. You've done nothing to protect them. You violated your oath. You
Right.
violated your word. Why should we think you will protect us and create a security umbrella if we give you up our nuclear weapons?
I want to, that's important. I want to ask Norman, how do you feel about it? We're close to losing you, so I want to know how you're feeling.
Well, you hit it right on the head. History shows you have no credibility. You've done it before with Ukraine. What makes us understand that you're going to do it again with us? It's a credibility thing. You know, you say one thing today, and tomorrow you go behind my back and you take it away. So that part is off the table. I don't think they're going to ever agree to that because of their past performance. We have not lived up to our honor, and basically right now that is not going to be again an issue of negotiation. They would never concede to that. Just like John mentioned about giving up the land in Ukraine. Iran is never going to give that to the United States. They may hand it over to Russia or some other intermediary to deal with it, but the trust is not there, and is never going to come to terms, particularly with this administration, and particularly with the players, and particularly as things happening right now. No way.
Right.
His administration, he means the Trump administration.
Right, the current Trump administration.
The Trump administration.
Right.
Yeah.
This is a very interesting discussion we're having here in the studio as well as across Zoom about the comparisons between war fronts and how the U.S. position has changed over time. Of course, it is time for a short commercial break. However, afterwards we will talk regarding other updates as well. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for joining in. It is time for a commercial break. Hello and welcome to International Affairs, and my name is Shamsul Alam Panta.
I don't see an easy resolution to this because every slight deviation from the plan,
Opening an open war conflict with them.
testing nuclear missiles,
Russia's announcement of these supposedly successful testing,
Special and exclusive footage that is being played on SATV screen.
Really coming to terms with Hamas.
Damage estimated between this entire issue.
President Trump is expected to hold bilateral talks
preserving biodiversity and tackling climate change.
We cannot protect the planet before we negotiate peace.
Where is it going? Is it understanding the needs of its people before the needs of this global world?
For China to come to agreement,
They will face better projects.
with presidency of China and President Lee of South Korea.
Trump's White House that is in favor of these things.
simply not enough action being taken to address the problem of fossil fuels.
What their plan initially is towards the Caribbean a place that has been met with two types of disasters.
Bangladeshi students at the same level of opportunity internationally and domestically.
International Affairs. Watch every Sunday to Thursday at 2 p.m. only on SATV and SATV Digital. Ladies and gentlemen, welcoming you all back on International Affairs. In the last segment, I want to thank Norman Floyd Barnes, who was previously joined on this very broadcast, and we were talking about war centrics from around the world, very important updates as well. However, I want to continue the discussion here with John Dalton in the studio. I mentioned the municipal elections in the West Bank. After a long period of time, most people are now optimistic to understand what their leadership is going to be. The polling stations opened 7 a.m. on Saturday for 70,000 eligible votes in Gaza's Deir al-Bala area. First electoral exercise in the besieged enclave in 20 years. I want to get a take from you, sir.
Well, I was around there for the last 20 years ago when it happened. I mean, nobody in Tel Aviv imagined that Hamas was going to be elected, as they were, in the elections in Gaza. And they were elected because they were a social service organization which was providing more services than the Fatah movement, the group that Mahmoud Abbas led and still leads. And so that was quite a shock, and a shock to the American policymakers, because they didn't imagine that was going to happen. And it was the beginning of the isolation of Gaza from the rest of the West Bank and with the rest of the Palestinian Authority. And so I've been fortunate enough to travel throughout the West Bank. It's a beautiful area. It's rocky, and why anybody would fight for it is hard to believe. But it has its own specific beauty to it. It's got some great cities that are under control, theoretically, of the Palestinians. Bethlehem, Nablus. These areas in the West Bank where they're going to be holding these elections are very, very important to the Palestinian Authority. And one hopes that the Palestinian Authority secures some sort of majority in all of those cities, in all of those municipalities. There are still lots of people either in Hamas or in other kind of small groups that may secure some votes and can upset the apple cart. And just the fact that they're voting, it's a measure of it's a wonderful in-your-face movement against the settlers, right, who are constantly besieging these Palestinians, tearing down their homes, burning their olive fields. So the fact that they're actually having a vote is an in-your-face movement. We will not be deterred. And I give my Palestinian friends much, much credit for that, much praise for that. And I hope that something positive will come out of it. We'll see. In PA, the Palestinian Authority has lost a lot of credibility. I was last there 4 years ago, and I was in Ramallah at the time, but I traveled a little bit into the West Bank. And I hope that something happens which will deter the settlers and the IDF from imposing their negative will on the Palestinian people who are living in the West Bank under great, great duress. Right. And we'll see whether the IDF even allows certain polling stations to remain open. Jericho or Nablus, as I said, or Bethlehem or wherever. Let's see whether or not the the Israeli settlers movement, right, and that's Ben Gvir and Smotrich and all of those guys, whether they let that happen in the West Bank and in Gaza.
It's a story that requires more days to see as how the reactions take place as as this electoral process goes on. I want to ask regarding. I have a mixture actually, a sad news as well as a very positive, optimistic news. I would want to start with two Bengali citizens were a case of murder in Florida, and of course the person involved, suspects, has been arrested by law enforcement agencies. Right now we still are yet to know about this. And also I want to add a miraculous event that happened with school children in Mississippi. 5 of them, which saved a school bus from crashing as the driver of the bus fell ill to medical emergencies. These 5 children were then later praised by the media for their heroic act to save everyone on board. So there's a mixture of the two stories. I just want a final comment from you, sir.
Well, I'm glad those kids were cool enough to do this. I mean, one kid gets down on his knees and pushes the brake. Another kid grabs the wheel and stops it. Somebody takes the medicine and puts it in the driver's mouth. She had it in her hand.
Right.
Somebody called the cops, and somebody called the parents. So this is a pretty coordinated effort by these 5 kids who I think were like 13 or 14 years old.
School-going children.
School-going children, yeah, and a school bus, of course, in a small little county in Mississippi. So the fact that they were courageous enough and calm-headed enough to take control, it's a testimony to the fact that they have been empowered and that they were raised by the parents in a way that said, do not sit back in the event of a crisis, take action. So maybe they were inspired by something else. We don't even know. I'm always thinking about those people in the airplane that took charge back on 9/11. But that's great. That's a great story. What's the bad news?
2 Bangladeshi students. That has taken even here in Bangladesh as well. Grieving parents, grieving families, wanting to know how it happened, why it happened. A case of homicide in the making. Yeah.
Well, the two students who were beginning to be engaged in some sort of a romantic relationship as well. The guy who did it, we don't know anything about him except his nationality. You've told me that.
Yeah.
It's a sad story. It's a sad story when anybody's nipped in the butt of in the butt of their life. These people are like, one was a PhD student pursuing a PhD, and another one just starting out in college. Anytime life like that is snuffed out, it's terrible. You've got little kids. I got big kids.
Right.
It's the same feeling. You never lose that sense. Like, well, what would happen if somebody called me and said, "Listen, maybe your daughter's not gonna make it." It's a heartrending kind of a situation. So, my heart goes out to the Palestinian parents. To the Bangladeshi parents who are suffering through this, and I hope we get to the facts soon. But Central Florida and Florida State, many Bangladeshis go there.
Right.
And it's ordinarily a very safe and calm place. You should also note they were living off campus. Okay, they were not living in the dorms. They were living off campus, which is very normal in the U.S.
Right.
Had their own apartment. And so what's behind the whole scene, we don't know. But it's still sad.
Of course, it's very upsetting to hear as well. Condolences from my side to the 2 Bengali families as well. I want to thank John Dalton. Very important updates, very powerful insights, powerful debate topics here on a Sunday as well. Thanking you for your time on the set today.
Pleasure.
Alongside, I want to thank Norman Floyd Barnes for joining us almost every day on this very broadcast with very important geopolitical updates. As I want to finish today's program, I want to say today is the 26th of April. It has huge significance worldwide. We know of a nuclear fallout disaster that took place in the Chernobyl nuclear power plant located in Pripyat, current day Ukraine, which of course at that time was a part of the Soviet Union. Of course, I want to remember that event in the face that we do not engage in ourselves in a man-made nuclear disaster. With that being said, I want to sign off on International Affairs. I'll see you all tomorrow.